Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning. Welcome to the SAP's podcast. This is episode 1 of The Leftovers, the probably I would say underrated HBO series. My name is Sam and I'm joined by my two fabulous co-hosts, Ant.
Hi there, I've read the Wikipedia summary. I'm good to go.
He's all set, and my man, Phil.
You're right, guys. I've done my homework for this, so let's see how it goes.
So, like I say, this is episode 1 of our Leftovers podcast series. So, just for a bit of background, we're going to be doing the full watch, all 28 episodes, all 28 fantastic episodes, in my opinion. And for a bit of background on us in terms of our relationship to the programme, so this is my third watch through now. Loved it on my first watch.
Too much
Loved
time
it
on furlough, mate.
Yeah, pretty much. No, but loved it on my first watch. Loved it on my second, and already I can tell I'm just going to love it again. And Anton, Phil, you guys haven't watched it before, have you? This is your first time.
Yeah, this
first
is
viewing.
my first watch, so yeah, all good.
Yep.
So before we get into things, our spoiler policy is that because Ant and Phil, this is their first episode through, we're doing no future spoilers. So spoilers for the episode that we're doing each week. So this week we're just going to be talking about episode 1, but because the other guys don't know what's going on forward, you don't have to worry about spoilers overall. So let's just get into the episode. We'll start off with a more overall discussion. So, Phil, did you enjoy the pilot episode of The Leftovers?
I thought it was brilliant. The premise is absolutely fantastic. It's one that's got I've got so many questions. I'm only one episode in, but it's not like it's left me with a lot of questions. I've been thinking about this pretty much non-stop for the last 24 hours. Pretty obsessed with it at the moment, to be honest. Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Anant?
Yeah, absolutely enjoyed it. I liked the way that they had a few characters and dived into those, and also what I did really enjoy is, you think there'd be a lot on talk on, why the people disappeared, but that's not really the focus. It's more kind of the aftermath and the characters and how they all link, and it's setting the scene, isn't it? But despite that, I thought there was definitely enough to to hook me onto watching episode 2. And I nearly watched episode 2, and I thought, no, I'll wait. I'll wait and do it in line with you guys.
Yeah, no, but like you said, enough to really pique your interest. And
Yeah.
I tell you what, as well, it's fantastic for rewatching, because you notice like lots of different little things. But there are a few things in it that aren't amazing, but luckily you'll notice when we move on to the second episode, the production's a lot cleaner. In this episode, there's quite a few like almost like jump scares, like quite a few like choppy edits where they'll go to a flashback or something. And you often find that with pilot episodes, and then once it gets like a full order, then they'll kind of settle in and not try to do such eye-catching stuff with the edits all the time. But yeah, no, I really, really like it as well. Like I said, I don't think there's a bad episode in my opinion, but yeah, I think it's just a really good start. It does a good job of introducing you to this very strange world, because I don't know about you guys, and like I say, I know it's only the first episode, but I just find when you're watching The Leftovers, every scene or something just in that world, and obviously something massive has happened, but they do a great job in making the world just feel off.
Yeah, slightly surreal.
Yeah,
That's like a brooding,
yeah,
reality is what the impression I was getting the whole time. And it was nothing
Mm-hmm.
other than like, dogs and the stag. It was quite hard to put your finger on it quite often.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree. I've got lots of points around that, Sam. Just want to take the viewers and me through the structure, what you got in mind today, so I know how to pace my brilliant points out.
Yeah, so what we're doing is just after we're done talking about our overall impressions, the main bulk of the episode is that I've watched the episode twice. On the second time through, I was writing down a breakdown, kind of scene by scene.
Okay.
Um, So then we'll basically take it scene by scene and just have a little discussion and all that kind of thing about it.
Okay.
All right. All right then. So let's get into that then. So we open up the introduction. So you've got a mother with her baby, her crying baby, in a laundrette. She's on the phone. Maybe seems a little bit stressed, but nothing too much kind of out of the ordinary. Then she gets in the car, and like I said, the baby's crying, but they're not showing her as like she's really distressed and trying to ramp up the tension from the off. The baby's crying, but she's okay with it. She's on the
She's
phone.
under control. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But then it pans to the baby in the back seat, pans back to the mother, and then the crying just stops. The crying just stops, and it goes back to the back seat, and the baby's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like the fact that they didn't show the baby disappear. Because often with these kind of things, you're expecting. I mean, if you knew what was going to happen, you'd expect almost like an Avengers Endgame style kind of sand disintegration. But the fact it just disappears with the clothes as well, that's quite weird because sometimes you think, the clothes would be left behind. And I thought the opening scene was very impactful because it gets to the point within like 2 minutes, and the fact that it's a baby going, and because the baby's called Sam, there was a bit of a connection there. And then, you think, what's going on when the baby's gone? And then there's another little boy and he's calling out for his dad, I think it is. And then it's like, okay,
right.
There's something bigger here. And then it's only when the car crashes into the other one, you're like, okay, something's going on here.
Yeah, that's it, because you could easily think, okay, the baby's been kidnapped.
Yeah.
And you could think it's a very different show. And one thing that I always think with The Leftovers, and they do mention it later on in this episode, so obviously they say it's about 2% of the population, about 140 million people, I think they say, or 200 million people, something like that. And obviously that is a ridiculously large amount of people, but it is still only 2%. But what this opening scene shows is that, just the utter chaos that will, just immediately erupt, even if it was just 2%. We're not talking half the world or most of the world. We're talking about 2%, just enough just to tip things off balance.
Yeah, but they segue into the emergency calls, and they kind of frantically overlay the different calls coming in to add to the frantic nature of it. But if you also take a step back and think of the chaos that would have actually ensued at the time, I mean, not only have you got all the machines, all the vehicles, aeroplanes, all that kind of stuff being operated, and all the death that, kind of all the knock-on death that would have happened, so...
the fallout of it for all.
Exactly, the fallout, and then, like, even the stuff you wouldn't necessarily think about, like, brain surgeon goes during surgery, and so you've got, like you said, all the knock-on deaths, but then just 2% of people going, so that's 2 out of every 100. That's 1 in 50. It's a big enough number, I guess, isn't it? You think if that was your school year, that's a good 2 people going, something like that. And it's like you say, it's not enough to really cause absolute global chaos, but it's enough to wonder what the hell's going on,
the world.
Especially when there's no explanation for it.
Yeah. What I quite liked was how subtle the opening bit was, because Sam, when Sam disappears, I really like the fact that the mum, she kind of almost does like a bit of a double take, like she doesn't quite, because there's not like a big thunderclap moment, like the heavens open or anything. The baby's just gone, and she almost like does a bit of a double take. She looks and then kind of cranes her neck further. But did you notice the tramp in the background disappear?
No.
Yes.
So when she's in her car, you can see a tramp through her window. He's like pushing a trolley, and then you see him get to a point. He appears to bend down, and then he's not seen again. He just vanishes.
So do you see him disappear on screen, or do you see him like there, shot pans away, and then he goes, sort of thing, just like Sam?
The latter one.
Yeah, the latter. So you see the trolley get pushed up to a point, and then she kind of cranes her neck to look at Sam, and then when it panes back to her, the trolley's still there, and where the tramp should have been, he's no longer there. So I thought it was quite an interesting.
Yeah, I never saw that.
Mhm.
The only problem I had with this, and I'm gonna change it for next time, is that I watched it, but I kept pausing and I kept making notes, and I think because of that I didn't kind of watch a full flowing episode.
Mm.
And I think that was a bit of a mistake I
what
made.
next time. Do what I did. Watch the episode and then watch it again
Yeah.
a few days later, and then make your notes. Okay, so that's the opening. So then we cut to just shy of 3 years later, and then we've got good Dick Justin Thoreau going for a run. Did you guys notice his package as he's going for a run?
No.
Because in the leftovers kind of like community, if you like, it became a bit of a joke. Like, and honestly, next time you see him running, you won't be able to take his eyes off it. It just looks like he's got an absolutely huge penis, just
That
flopping
man is
around as he's
packing.
going for a run.
I see Jennifer Aniston's ex-husband.
Ooh, I don't
Who?
know, actually.
No, you mean
Yeah. I've
Who's-
just quickly Wikipedia'd it. They were engaged and they married, but they've
I mean,
separated now.
fair play to my man. So he's
I
going
like
for
the
a
fact.
run.
Sorry, I've typed in the leftovers jogging, and that's the first thing that's come up is this.
I told you. I told you. So he's going for
Hang on, wait for me.
yeah. If you pop it up in images, I can see what they're saying. That is some big dick energy right there. That is...
And then you combine that with the body that he's got and that gorgeous back tattoo, and you're just like, yeah,
this man.
my
fucks.
man.
yeah, this man.
Okay,
fucks.
so he's on his run, and then he comes across a kind of stray dog, and bends down, just trying to call it over so he can give it a bit of fuss, and then out of nowhere, the dog gets shot. Phil, when that dog got shot, what was going through your mind?
I was like, what the hell's... So I thought at first, I didn't think it was so much the dog had been the target. I'd wondered if he was under attack.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just suddenly bang, because you can picture it a feral world, where animals are running a bit wild.
Mm-hmm.
But when the gunshot initially went off, I actually thought he was supposed to be the target. Like it was going to turn out he had to dive out the way or do some kind of action sequence. And it was quite poignant, the fact they just, here's a dog that's, well behaved. Initially appeared feral, but, it was kind of responding to his commands. And then suddenly, bang, that's it, it's gone. Like everyone else has ever known. Gone. And with no warning whatsoever.
That's it. It's almost like a little microcosm for the departure, isn't it? Like just the dog's there, everything's okay, bang, gone. Obviously, in a different way, but still.
I thought it was peak.
It's a great metaphor for almost the end of the episode, isn't it? And his sanity, I thought.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely, it was fully peak. But so I think there's going to be a lot of dog talk in this episode, to be honest. So we won't linger on the dog too much now. So then we onto the next scene. We get our first glimpse of the guilty remnant, all in white, no talking. Laurie wakes up immediately, lights up a cigarette, but you do get another one of these kind of choppy edits. I think it's to like a flashback. It looks like a fight at a school, and to be honest, to my mind, I can't think of what that's really referencing. I don't know if that's something again that they just abandoned for the pilot. But so, Ant, when you get your first glimpse of the guilty remnant, what's your first impression?
Well, I didn't know what they were at first, but it becomes apparent they're a cult of sorts, or it's like a mental institution. I wasn't quite sure what the deal was, and then they're all smoking, and it took me a while actually to realise. I think I was a good 70% of the episode through before I realised that Laurie was in fact my man Justin's wife. I don't know if they were classed as separated. Yeah, like I think
apart from the brief clash in the photo.
Yeah, you look at the photo. It's not really stated, is it? I mean, obviously towards the end when he turns up, it is. But I didn't really know what to think. I just kind of went with it and saw what they were showing me.
And that's obviously what what they want to do. They want to leave you with questions. They don't just want to spell things out from the start. So then we go on to high school, and then we've got Jill, who's Kevin's daughter. She's in class, and this scene shows it's a great example of what The Leftovers does well. Is that it just shows how everyday life would be affected as well by something like the departure. And so then, they're all praying in class, and then they have the, what seems to be a regular prayer for those who departed. Jill doesn't join in. She's instead trying to flirt with Nick. Um, but like I say, you see that, quite a lot of people are getting involved with that. And so then we go on to Tommy then. So he is taking a congressman actually to a very mysterious character, Holy Wayne. So he gets in the car, he hands Tom a nice wad of cash, to be honest. And one thing that struck me with this is that sometimes with these kind of programs, it might just fully focus on one kind of person, and this is about normal people, not the higher ups of the world, the characters that they focus on in this program. But it shows as well that even a congressman who you would think is, maybe got access to special reports or, something, even he's searching for answers, and he's going to search out Holy Wayne.
I had no idea what was going on with that, to be honest with you.
No.
The slot with Wayne. I mean, just before that, I just wanted to say there's a shot when the police officer, when he leaves his house, there's like a kind of taxidermy stuffed deer in the background, and then it disappears when he looks again.
He's not certain it's dead, is he? That's why he keeps looking at it. He can't tell if it's dead or not because it's not responding to him.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I don't know if it was a taxidermy one because initially I thought that was the whole point.
Well,
why
it
he keeps trying to check.
didn't move, and it's like it is a kind of blink and you miss it sort of thing. I just wanted to draw some attention to that because obviously it links with what happens later.
Yeah. But one thing I was going to talk about was in the scene where she wakes up in the cult and starts dreaming about the bullying.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if that's her reflecting on why she thinks she might not have, because they obviously believe it's some kind of religious happening, and I wondered if that scene where she sees that girl it appears like someone's being bullied in my mind, and I wonder if that's her reflecting on or thinking of why she didn't make the 2% cut. That's what I thought about it when I saw that flashback.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really think about that bit.
That's what I was thinking when I saw that. It's like, I wonder if she's reflecting on...
That was the girl, right? That was Kim. Fighting.
It was... is it Lorraine? What's the wife's name?
Laurie,
sorry.
So
I thought
Laura
it was
fighting
Laurie.
someone.
I thought it was Laurie and another girl. And I thought it looked like the girl on the floor was being bullied. And I got the impression...
That's a very good actual interpretation of that, Phil, to be fair. I've never thought of that. And to be honest, I think part of the reason why I've never really thought about that is because I'm not going to lie, that doesn't really go anywhere.
Reappear later on.
Yeah, it is just something that, like I say,
Spoilers.
with a lot of these kind of well, it's not a spoiler, is it? But like a lot of these choppy edits that come in the pilot that don't really come back up again. But in trying to like retro fit that into the continuity, it just seemed like a really good idea. So fair play. But yeah, so on to our next scene. So we see in the background a TV report, and it looks like some sort of government special committee has been set up to do an investigation into the departure. And they've clearly got no answers. And then you've got the big wig in the American government, and he's like, right, so what is your answer? Are you saying your best answer is, I don't know what's happened? And he's just like, yeah.
What I thought was quite telling in that scene was he actually the senator. I didn't write down his name, but the first thing he does is actually initially we put together a council of, I think he called them clerics, all the major religions. They couldn't come up with an answer, so then we turned to you. And I thought it was quite poignant that he specifically states that they turned to religion first before looking for the science.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know if anyone else noticed that.
So is this the bit when the guy jumps off the roof, when the two jump off the roof, or not?
No, it's like a TV report you see in the background, and it's like what's the word for like a Congress investigation or something? I'm not quite sure what the term is.
I thought it was really
there.
realistic. I thought that's probably what would happen. There's no explanation. They try science, they try religion.
But Phil, going off what you said, they turn into religion because it seems so inherently a religious event. You know, the rapture is a well-known kind of thing that's talked about in the Bible. And so you would think that, yeah, that's going to be a really good place to turn. They're going to have the answers, but again, they don't. They don't have the answer that everybody wants.
Could be the
They
beginning of
don't.
Ragnarok. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, 'cause they
And
even
I
say the
think that,
Pope disappears, doesn't they? That really made me
yeah.
chuckle a bit, kind of like, and the
And
Pope's
J Lo.
vanished. Yeah,
I,
J
I,
Lo
think,
as well.
I think with this, it's a good time to kind of talk about something that is in the episode overall, because it will come up quite a lot. And what this episode does a great job of setting the scene is that, and I think Ant alluded to it earlier, where this episode, and I'll talk about it more as we go through the series as a whole. But this episode isn't about what happened exactly, finding out what happened, a big mystery, a big investigation. It's about, just as Ant said, it's about the aftermath. It's about the people that were left behind, the leftovers, and how, even if it is just, quote unquote, just 2%, how do you deal with 200 million people just disappearing? And no explanation, and the best science in the world, the holy books, everything. You cannot get an answer for that. And this episode just does such a great job of just showing how people in all walks of life, even in extreme situations and normal situations, you just can't move on from that.
Yeah, there's no closure for people, is there?
Yeah, that's the thing.
No.
People want closure, don't they? They want to know
Yeah.
what happened and
Uh,
why it happened, how it happened and why it happened.
Exactly. So we're on to next. We're back with the guilty remnant. So we get the first proper confirmation that they don't speak when Laurie writes a note to Patty, and then there's two kind of quotes on the wall that I'm just going to read out to you guys. I want your reaction. So the first one is, "We are living reminders,"
Yep.
and the second one is, "We don't smoke for enjoyment. We smoke to proclaim our faith." What are you guys thinking about this?
I thought that was going to be. I thought the smoking would turn out to be some form of self-flagellation. Like, I thought they were smoking almost to punish themselves for not being good enough. Hence why the woman, why Lorraine was kind of thinking about why she didn't get into heaven, if that makes sense.
Laurie.
Sorry, I don't know why I
Let's
keep
just
thinking
get
Lorraine.
these names. Let's get these
Let's
names
get
right. It's
right.
Laurie. We've
Laurie.
got Kevin. Kevin
Yep.
is the main character. Well,
Yep. Yeah, I know what you mean.
the guy in the box a lot. You would say the main character.
Spoilers.
The guy with the package, yeah.
His daughter, yeah, good dick through. Jill is his daughter. Laurie is his estranged wife. I think.
Is it Tom, his son?
Yeah, and Tom's his son. Those are the kind of that's the Garvey family, as it is. So let's get those names right. And what did you think of the name of the messages on the wall?
I've got absolutely no idea. My joke answer is that the smoking just symbolises how they all went up in smoke, but I've got nothing, I'm afraid.
That's for a joke answer. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not.
What I will say about the GR is I was laughing to myself because I know it's a bit later on, but when when Kevin's talking to the mayor, and they talk about GR, I couldn't help but think the good riddance.
yeah.
I'd have thought that's probably a better name. The good riddance.
So then we cut to Kevin, and I tell you what, he's looking absolutely fly in his sunglasses.
Those Ray-Bans with the gold rims as well.
Yeah.
Justin Theroux can rock a pair of sunglasses, man.
And a pair of sweatpants.
Tight sweatpants.
And he sees a deer. Deers obviously are going to pop up a lot in this episode, so worth mentioning. And we get the first mention of Kevin's crazy dad. And we get another one of these choppy edits that shows someone running away, but
naked through a back garden.
I remember that.
Like on all fours, it looked like a bit like a dog. Was he barking as well?
In the mental institution, he looked like he escaped from a mental institution.
It looked like he was running through a back garden to me. But yeah, anyway.
So then
the way he was dressed in all white, wasn't he? From memory.
I thought he was naked.
Yeah,
oh yeah, that was right. Yeah. All right, even worse.
So Kevin's going to take the dog that got shot back to his owner. So then we get the very strange and surreal scene where actually the woman finds out her dog gets shot and she's not really particularly fussed because she says, "Well, he ran away 3 years ago,"
Mm.
meaning when the departure happened, and also her husband disappeared too at the same time. And this program, and not just this episode, this program is just full of such strange, unexplained little moments like that.
Mm.
Like I say, this woman's dog ran away 3 years ago, but it turns out it was actually still in the area and has just been shot by a random guy. It's just
I
like I
suppose
say,
that's not crazy, is it? Like, pets do run away, and maybe the dog was closer with the husband. I mean, I actually kind of bought it. It's like, okay, well, she's just emotionally gone, hasn't she? She's just got no
Yeah.
substance
I
left. She's just destroyed.
I'd wondered if there was like a subtle. So the problem is like when I was watching this, I kept trying to almost work out. So I'm currently viewing this as the 2% who went were the top 2%. I don't know if that's being confirmed, but I
Top
I
2%
viewed
of
it
what?
as like the best ethically or moral people in the world.
Okay.
It was the top 2% best because the people who are left behind, I appreciate, they're in a very difficult circumstance, but I got the impression from a lot of people that they're all flawed in some way.
How would
Every
you? How
character.
would a baby make the top 2%?
I don't know. That is a good question. In ethics, how would the Pope make the
well,
top two
th
percent?
th
You know,
th these
it's
are these are these are all really interesting questions, aren't they? And
yeah,
How
that
does
that this
J Lo
program,
make the top 2%?
well,
charity.
to be fair.
Yeah.
um, so then we're back with Tom. He's in the car with the congressman,
Oh,
and this
sorry,
is
I didn't quite.
actually
Sorry, I do apologize. Can I just finish what I was going to say? So, because I viewed this as when I looked at it, I thought best 2% ethically of every person. So I'd wondered when the dog hadn't come back if that was some kind of, and I'm probably going too deep here. But I'd wondered if it was almost because the dog ran away. But I'd almost wondered if it was because that she hadn't been treating the dog very well, almost if it had been a bit of a foreshadowing of that she wasn't a very good person herself.
yeah. I think maybe
I
yeah.
might be going too deep, but that was just
Yeah.
that's
I
one
think you
angle I was
may
trying to view it from.
yeah, maybe getting hung up on a particular idea that's maybe leading you down a certain path. But if you're maybe overthinking it, I think Ant is maybe underthinking a bit,
Whoa.
underthinking a bit because yes, okay, in real life, dogs do run away and blah blah blah. But in a program, where they're trying to tell a story, they're not just going to put in a random scene where the answer is, oh well, the dog just ran away. Every scene's going to have meaning,
I
and
mean,
so I
I
think
elaborated. It just shows how some people are, just emotionally shot because, the dog did run away 3 years ago. It's 3 years to process it. She's dealing with the loss of her husband. The dog turns up dead. It's like, okay, well, I've already dealt with the dog moving on,
yeah, but
And it's not exactly good news either, is it? It's not like, oh, the dog's back.
I think the main thing is just the strangeness of it because the dog has his collar on, you know, and so this
Mm.
Yeah,
dog's been running around for 3 years with his collar on, and and it
And no
and no
one's
one's called
returned
him
hasn't
it.
home.
really,
Yeah.
No, and
yeah,
the dog's
yeah,
made no
Yeah, I
attempt.
didn't think about that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So we're back with Tom and the congressman. So this is the scene where we see the two suicides from when Tom was at college, and
Called
he
it.
says he left. Yeah, he says he left college because he quote didn't see the point, which I
I thought he
think.
didn't leave college. I thought he was just viewing the college, like he was on
No, I
I
thought he
thought he was
dropped
just
out. I
going.
thought
I
he
thought yeah. I
dropped
thought he
out.
was like doing
No,
like
he
a
dropped
tour of the
out.
college. Look, he looked at schools down there.
No,
I'm
I'm pretty
Like
pretty,
sure he dropped out.
yeah, I'm
impression
pretty
I
sure
got.
it dropped out. But I think the main thing from that, like, is the line, is the line he didn't see the point. And I think, again, in a world where this departure happened, a lot of people would look at things they're doing and just be like, well, what is the point in
Life's
this?
too short. Yeah.
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 So is
And
it
then
ever confirmed who? I mean, in this episode itself, those suicides are random people. It's not like his family or anything. Because at first I was like, is that his
yeah,
family or
no,
something? Like, was that
no,
I
his
didn't
no,
make
it's
any links to
randomness.
anyone. I thought it was just something he witnessed.
fine?
So
Because
Yeah,
I took away from
like you
that.
said, he does kind of just cut in, and then there's no explanation. I was thinking,
Yeah.
who's that?
Again, I think that just goes back to what I've been saying. There's quite a lot of that kind of stuff in this pilot episode. Um, but then when he's talking to the congressman, and you kind of get an idea of why the congressman's doing
Congressman.
all congressman of doing all this, and he says it's because he wants to quote forget his burden, which I think is
Mm.
quite an interesting little line because again, I think it's going to affect some people in different ways. Where the departure is such a crazy event that most people will just not know how to deal with it, and it would just be like a permanent cloud over life then, which
Yeah.
is something quite interesting. So then we're back with Kevin, and he's having a meeting with the mayor, and he turns up late.
That weren't his
And we
fault
learn
though.
that well,
Just a quick
well,
question on that. You know, he keeps turning up late and things. Is that some
mhm.
kind? Is he got some? He's got mental health issues, right? Is that like depression where you just lose track of time and stuff, or
Well, I
did no one
think
bother to tell him? I didn't quite understand.
I think in this episode there's quite a lot of stuff where he tries to play it off, and he's just like, oh yeah, this, that, and the other's gone wrong. Oh, I slept through my alarm, all this kind of thing. Oh, the meeting got moved, but is it actually everyone else's fault? He's
Yeah. Now
yeah,
you mention it, I can see that, but I kind of bought that his office, that the mayor's office moved it and didn't tell him.
something to keep an eye on as we go through the series. That's what I'll say. So we
Spoilers.
learn that the next day is going to be the first quote Heroes Day, and we got our first mention of Nora Durst, who you guys will be learning about. And the first kind of reveal of her backstory, that she actually lost her whole family in terms of her husband and her two kids in the departure.
Yeah.
Imagine 2% of the world disappear and you lose the three closest people in your life. That is just
She should buy a lottery ticket since she's due some luck, isn't she?
absolutely. And so the name Heroes Day is actually really interesting to me because I think it's quite symptomatic of kind of humanity as a whole, because you've got this unexplained event that people just can't process in the departure, and so the only way that people can try and deal with it is by saying that the people that departed were heroes. But
I also couldn't think of anything better, right? I mean,
I think also this for me this reinforced the idea that it was the best part of society that vanished. I'm not sure if it was just a made up kind of name,
it's a good link.
but that when they called it Heroes Day, I did wonder if that was that
mhm,
reinforced something I may have already been looking for. But I did wonder if that did mean
mhm.
the top 2% of society vanished.
Well, I'll have more to say on that a little bit later. But so Kevin doesn't actually think that Heroes Day is a good idea at all because he knows that the guilty remnant's going to
The
turn
good
up, and
riddance are going to turn up. Yeah.
the good riddance cult are going to turn up, and they're going to provoke people. And then he says, "Where did they come from? We don't know who they were. Sorry, we don't know who they are. We know who they were," is what the mayor says in response to that, which is quite interesting because the people who've joined the guilty remnant clearly are so divorced from their previous life. It is like a completely new existence now. But then Kevin's got a line which I quite like, so because the mayor's saying that everyone's ready to feel better, and I think Kevin sums up the kind of feeling of the episode quite well when he says nobody's ready to feel better. They're ready to fucking explode.
Yeah.
And I think that like I say, that kind of catches the feeling of the whole episode where, everyone's on edge. Everyone's just looking for an excuse to hit someone. And so, like I say, I think that sums things up quite well.
Yeah, and as you see at the
And then,
parade, it was a good foreshadowing.
yeah, and then you get an immediate kind of payoff to that foreshadowing in Jill's hockey game when she just absolutely belts someone
To be
with
fair,
her elbow.
what was that ref doing? She didn't see, so she gets a leg swipe, right? And the ref says nothing
Yeah,
on
from
that,
behind, yeah.
and then she retaliates. As someone who's been whacked in the head with a hockey stick, like it hurts. And that ref, that ref was BS. So, yeah, carry on, Sam.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some questionable refereeing in there, but I still think most people in a normal world probably wouldn't turn around and just elbow someone straight and break their nose.
Straight in the
Yeah,
air.
straight away. And then we get the line from the coach to Jill where she says that I know it's been hard for you since your mother went away. And obviously we know what happens in this episode. We're talking full spoilers for the episode, and we know what that means now because they're obviously trying to suggest that
she disappeared.
look, yeah, that
At the
she
time, I was
departed.
like, she's disappeared as part of the 2%. At the time,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same.
exactly.
I was right there with you.
Mm-hmm.
Good
And
to
then we're
know.
back to Tom, and the congressman goes in to see the man himself, Holy Wayne. Don't know if you guys have ever seen Peep Show. If you have, you'll
Yeah,
definitely
I
recognise
did
the
look at him like
actor.
he looks like because it wasn't until he spoke in a British accent that I was there like he reminds me of the guy from Peep Show. It took me a moment to realise like oh it is the guy from Peep Show.
So he's sitting in a very, very minimalistic room, and we just get the simple line from the congressman. He just says, "Can you help me?" Which again, I think that just sums up really well just what people are looking for. They want answers. They just want someone to help them. So they'll turn to strange guys sitting in virtually empty rooms and pay large amounts of money to, well, we don't know exactly what yet, but
It's probably
something.
got some kind of track record or has some sort of credential, even if it's pseudo bullshit. I mean,
Oh
I'm one
yeah.
episode in, but you'd argue there's something to it, or at least someone's got something out of it. But they don't
Yeah,
explain any of it, do they? They just
no,
you
definitely.
just see the scene, don't you?
So then we see the other side of this little operation, and we've got a load of girls around the pool, a load of Asian girls around the pool. Just to point that out.
Were they all Asian? I only noticed the main one to be honest. I
Yeah,
didn't
they
realise they
were.
all
Yeah.
were.
Yeah. And Tommy gets a phone call from his dad, which he doesn't want to take, and then we get a moment where one thing that I love about The Leftovers is the sound design, and there's a recurring piece of music that they use throughout the series, and it comes in 2 or 3 times in this episode. The do do do, like really piano heavy music, and every time it comes in, I love it. I love it.
I got
Shivers.
I got
Shivers.
chills then. Yeah, shivers down
the spine. So then Kevin arrives home after Tommy's ignored his call, and he's going up the stairs, sees the family picture, and just smashes it right over, as we know now, right over Laurie's face, which is.
Thought it was Lorraine, Phil.
Oh, all right. Wind it in.
All right.
So
Just
then
before you skip on, I thought it was really poignant when you just said, "I just wanted to hear your voice," like almost like he was just worried that he'd just disappear again. I thought that was quite powerful when he went,
Yeah.
"Just wanted to hear your voice."
Yeah, that's a good point. And we see a lot in this episode of Kevin, seemingly just trying to, look after his kids, but his relationship with both of them doesn't seem particularly great.
So yeah, he's obviously got a frantic job. He's just all over the place, isn't he? He's just trying to do what he can. He didn't strike me as a bad parent, but yeah, the kids are well, they're not kids anymore, but you just see the kind of stuff they're up to, and I'm sure
there'll always be kids in his eyes.
Yeah, we'll come across, the future scenes with the two children, but yeah, it's evident that he's spinning plates and a few are breaking.
So then we go back to the Guilty Remnant, and we've got a meeting, and they're assessing seemingly targets, and we get our first glimpse of Meg, played by the amazing Liv Tyler, who will come into it.
What a woman.
What's Arwen doing here?
Yeah,
I did think that. She will always be Arwen.
I'll never see her in any other way.
Arwen.
Arwen. Is she the Even Star?
Yeah, that's it. Was it? Yeah, Even Star, Morning Star. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so big shouts out to Liv Tyler. No one's got a bad thing to say about Liv Tyler, let's be honest. So then we're back with Jill, and we first meet her friends, the twins, who I'll just say now are easily the most boring characters in the whole program.
Spoilers.
But anyway,
they did seem a bit basic.
Yeah.
They were just okay. You going to the party? No. Okay.
I kind of like that, that kind of Americanized kind of you go in the party, like it was a welcome break because you've got the events of what's going on, and you've got these kind of dorky lads, these not quite chads, but just trying to hit on the girls, and it was a welcome bit of relief there. It wasn't quite comic relief, but it was certainly on the way, wasn't it?
So then we're back with Tom, and we see that the congressman is now no longer burdened. He's fully happy, and it's all gone. All that burden's gone thanks to Wayne. But Tom can't relax just yet because he gets told that Wayne wants to speak to him. and so then we're back with Meg. Actually, we're not back with Meg. We get our first proper introduction to Meg, and we see the guilty remnant. Kind of first glimpse of one thing that they do, and they're just standing outside a house, just standing there watching, smoking, of course. Um, and uh, and then we cut to Jill at the party which Ant was talking about. Hey, we're going to the party. um,
It was like the opposite of
and
that kind of party, wasn't it? There was no red cups and the keg out the
Yeah,
back. It was
beer pong.
it was kind of like
pretty
skins,
full
wasn't
on.
it? Almost, yeah.
yeah, it was a
It
bit of a
felt very
grimy
debauched.
party. and
Or a night off
Jill's
for me.
Oh.
oh lads, and Jill's friend Amy is about to get basically shagged by Nick, which Jill's not particularly happy about. But hey, that's what happens when you play this kind of weird version of Spin the Bottle. You
I
know.
thought just before we move on, I thought it was really interesting because you had like all the potential outcomes from that. It really shows that these people don't care anymore. Like
Mhm.
I was quite
Yeah,
Yeah.
taken aback, but I was like, well, okay, so I can either burn you, choke you, or shag you, and
Yeah.
people just do it. Like I was there, like,
that
right,
was
okay, that's an
yeah. I never
extreme.
picked up on that. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good
I
point,
thought,
Phil.
yeah, with the orgies and everything, I just thought this was people who don't care or have gone past the point of
Yeah.
any
I think
social norms.
I think that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, fair play. So then we're back with Meg. She's in a restaurant with her husband, and she's pretty clearly unhappy. She's not
Fiance.
bothered about it. Sorry, fiance. Yeah, my bad.
Oh, panicking.
Yeah, well, that's it. She's clearly not bothered about the wedding. She's clearly unhappy, and then the guilty remnant turn up again.
I thought it was
And
actually great how you've got a woman who doesn't care about those little details at weddings. Not bothered about the centerpieces.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Phil. I mean, you could we
Yeah.
probably have a whole long podcast series on your wedding planning, couldn't we? And those finer details and
I'll be honest, it's not so much my wedding planning. It's
yeah,
definitely Laura's
yeah,
wedding planning.
Laura's wedding.
I
And
think I've made the guest list, to be honest, at this point.
and you're there, sort of thing.
I am there as a prop at this point.
Sorry, pastry. Carry on.
Yeah.
but I think one thing that's interesting actually about this scene when the husband goes out to confront the guilty remnant is that he says to them that she's been going through some stuff, which is quite interesting because I think that's the kind of people that the guilty remnant are gonna be looking at to
Spoilers.
to maybe recruit. Well, it's not spoilers; it's literally in the episode. Um, uh, okay, and then then we're back to the party. Not much to say on this, but just a little interesting note is that they're in. Jill goes with some guy, some unimportant guy, to do their outcome of spin the bottle, and it's in the little sister's room, and it's mentioned that she departed, but that the parents haven't touched it because in case she comes back, which is just another way that people might be, dealing with things or not, as it may be.
Well, you do hear
There's
about it, don't you? People who like lose children and things like they don't touch the room,
yeah,
or
there's
even when they
an
commit suicides, like they don't touch the room or make any changes
yeah,
as if
there's
they
an
are coming back.
yeah, there's an interesting song by an artist I like called Stephen Wilson. There's a song called Routine, and the song is basically about a wife who's got her routine of you know sorting the kids out, cooking the meals, doing stuff around the house, and then the whole family, so the husband and the two kids, are basically killed in a mass shooting in America, and it's how she carries on with that routine as her way of grieving. And you can definitely link in that sort of mindset with what you were just saying about leaving the room untouched, because I don't think they actually think they'll come back. It's just their way of like preserving the memory, because I think a lot of people think when people die you forget about them, and a lot of people are like, well, this room is sacred almost. So I thought that was really realistic.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. And then we cut back to Meg, who arrives home, and the guilty remnant are there waiting at her house as well. And this time, Meg snaps. She gets out the car. She shouts. I think she hits Laurie.
Yeah.
And she's just lost it. And the guilty remnant are, they're clearly doing this kind of stuff to try and provoke people, and it's worked thus far. and we'll see a bit more about how that plays out later. And then we're back to the party again, and whilst Amy's getting a pretty good time off Nick, to be fair, they look like they're both having a pretty fun time. Jill goes out and she finds the dead dog in Kevin's boot.
Yeah.
And there is the question: why is Kevin keeping hold of this for so long?
Struggling to let go. Yeah.
And
Or he's just all over the place and just forgot about it.
Well, that's it. I think again, what this program does brilliantly, you could very easily just say, well, yeah, he hasn't had time to deal with it, and he will. But then there is also that but really, it's a dead dog, and
He's
you keep it in your car.
too busy having an ice cold beer in the car. I saw that.
Oh, I saw that.
Just off the dirt road.
Dusty boots.
It was in the console.
So Jill and the twins go to bury the dog, and then we get something quite interesting about the dogs again. So they're talking about how when the departure happened, a whole pack of dogs went mad.
Yeah, and it's like an urban myth, isn't it?
Yeah, and like I said, there's lots of interesting theories to be had about the dogs and deers in this episode. So yeah, if you guys have any particular thoughts on that at the moment, what do you reckon?
Not really.
I initially thought not quite hounds of hell, not like zombie dogs, not fetch me their souls.
Got an interesting thing about that, Phil.
Pardon?
Why they say fetch me this?
Fetch me.
Phil, did you know that they say fetch me their souls because that's a pun on dogs playing fetch? Did you know that?
Is that why? Is that gosh?
It took me 12
after so many
zombie
years
maps to make that thing.
I was gonna say after what 12 years has that game been coming out? And but it's no right. Honestly, that was it was Anne, wasn't it? It was just there like, did you guys know? Like the most profound moment.
Just to change the subject there, guys. So just during the party when it was outside, when they're with the dog, and it suddenly cuts to the two people wearing their religious garb. I just wondered what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting actually, because obviously it's only a quick shot, and to me, what I would think is that there's almost like a dichotomy of two different ways that people will go to try and deal with what happened, which is that either they might, as Phil said earlier, just be like, fuck it, whatever, and just go all out, start doing crazy, spin the bottles, burning themselves, whatever, or they might become quite devout in things and take it as like real evidence of God and that kind of thing. So I think that's maybe what they were trying to get over with that, but obviously it's just a really quick shot, so they might be reading a bit too much into it.
Sure.
So next we're back with Tom, and Wayne comes to visit him in the middle of the night because that's not weird. That's not weird at all. And Wayne is very concerned about Tom paying attention to Christine. He's very concerned that he's going to try and shag her. Wayne, you fucking weirdo, man. Anyway, so then Wayne talks about a dream that his son has and all this kind of thing, and he tells Tom that the grace period's gone and it's time to go to work. Whatever that means, Wayne, you just float your boat. Who knows what you're on about. So then we're back with Kevin. He's driving along and he hits, and you guessed it, he hits a deer. And I tell you what, there was just this horrible noise of a dying deer stuck in the front of his car, but then it's okay, it's just a dream. He wakes up, and yep, he's overslept, and he's only got 10 minutes to get to the parade. Like, honestly, what is going on with Kevin?
There's a stack of pills as well, isn't there? There's quite a few bottles
to
there.
Medication in the corner. Right, I thought it was sleeping pills.
So that's the first time I really thought, okay, well this guy's he's got a lot on.
Yeah, there's stuff going on with Kevin, definitely. So and then he goes downstairs and his kitchen's all smashed up. Just no explanation offered as of yet. What do you think about that?
So yeah, initially I was thinking, well, so his daughter doesn't come home. Is it linked to that? And I thought, well, why would she smash up the place? so I disregarded that, and then I thought, did he do it? And I've got no explanation. Phil?
Same. So I was wondering. So this is again wondering if I'm going too deep. I'd wondered if he was projecting himself onto the deer because you see like the mark. It looks like not quite hoof prints, but it looks like slightly cloven when you see like the indent around the door.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, oh, it was the deer initials. They're like, oh, did the deer trash the place? You know, the one
Mm-hmm.
that he saw earlier and the one that he dreamed about, thus explaining why he heard the weird noises in his sleep. But I'm
And
now kind
Kevin
of wondering
does.
if he's, as Ants just said, did he trash the place himself whilst on the pills? And actually, he's just projected the deer into it, if that makes sense.
Well, we don't get an answer in this episode, but what we do get is Kevin later on saying to the deer, "Were you in my house last night?"
Yeah,
So he
exactly.
clearly thinks it's the deer, but I mean, can we trust Kevin? That's the big question. So then we cut to the Heroes Day parade, and some people are holding up signs. One saying, "Where did they go? We want to know." And to me, when I was watching this, the thing that struck me was just like, who do you expect to have the answers?
Yeah, yeah,
You, you
yeah,
know, you know, humans so much are just asking the questions, but clearly people don't know, and they're saying we want to know. People don't know.
Yeah, as if people weren't already thinking
yeah.
into this.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I saw
exactly.
that as a very clear, we're not ready to move on.
Yeah,
When I
100%.
saw that, despite the whole point of the day is to kind of help people get some form of closure, when I saw the banner, I was like, well, that's someone not saying I'm ready for closure. That's someone saying
Mm-hmm.
this is still
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing going on for me, understandably, but I'm not ready for closure. So I thought it was a bit of a
100%.
oddly placed banner at the time.
100%. Because it's like Kevin said earlier, people aren't ready to be happy yet.
Yeah.
People are ready. People are still angry. But anyway, so this is something that I think is going to be quite interesting to talk about now, given what Phil was saying earlier. So we get our first scene with Matt the priest, played by Christopher Eccleston. And the first, we only get a quick glimpse of him in this episode, and you think that he's going to be crazy, um, because he's handing out flyers and he's preaching about how the departure wasn't the rapture, because this person who disappeared, she beat her children,
Yeah, I
and
thought that
so.
was interesting. It's the first time you ever hear someone properly criticize someone who's departed, other
Yeah.
than someone calling someone else a dipshit, I think he says at one point.
Mhm.
You never hear any
Mhm.
negative things about those who've gone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, how did you react to that then, Phil? Because obviously you had the idea that maybe the 2% were the top 2% ethically or morally in the world, and now you're hearing that that's not the case. How did that make you think then?
So he seemed to me, when I initially met the character, I thought he seemed quite manic, and I almost disregarded him completely as a bit of either a zealot or a bit of a whack job almost, if that's the right term, someone who's struggling to have the grip on reality, and largely
Mhm.
because up until he says, oh, she used to beat her children,
Mhm.
no one had really criticised anyone who had departed, other than
Mhm.
one person in the town hall scene calling his brother-in-law a dipshit. But other than that, no one's criticised those who vanished. So I thought he was quite a good break. So I initially just ignored him completely, but thinking back on it, he almost provides quite a good break in my theory of, oh, actually, it is the top two
Mhm.
percent of the most ethical people, if that's the right word. Um, so he's a bit of a manic, bit of a zealot, and initially I kind of disregarded him, just thought he was someone who was just really struggling to come to terms with what had happened.
Mhm.
A bit of a conspiracy theory almost, if
Mhm.
that's the right way to look at it, like a conspiracy theorist rather than someone to be taken seriously.
Sure. Well, obviously without any details, but you guys will be seeing a lot more of Matt the Priest as we go through this series, and honestly I can't wait to talk more about him. He's such an interesting character.
To be
Um,
Sorry, to be honest, I didn't really thinking back, I didn't really realize he was a priest. Actually, I kind of missed
Neither
that
did
he was a
I. Yeah.
priest. I didn't realize he was a priest because he wasn't wearing any priestly clothes when you see him, and you saw a priest earlier on in the episode, if I recall, at dinner or something. I'm trying to remember when you
maybe
see
it's
him.
not actually mentioned in this episode, but it's such a
Spoiler
big
alert.
part. Yeah. um, but so at the parade, Jill, despite Kevin saying that he didn't want her there, of course she's turned up, and you just see just a great glimpse of just their dysfunctional relationship. Just when she says to him, "Why was there a dead dog in your car?" and he just can't give her an answer. He
Yeah,
just looks
doesn't
at her,
explain.
as if he's maybe thinking he's going to try and make something up or whatever, and he just has nothing to offer.
Mm.
Mm.
And you can just see like disappointment on her face, which I thought was quite interesting. But so people just clearly aren't ready to feel better. Um, about the whole thing. Nora, played by the amazing Carrie Coon, gets up and starts to talk about her family. And there's a great little moment, well, not a moment, but it's a great speech where she says how she doesn't want the perfect day back.
Yeah.
She'd take the horrible day when they're all sick and she thought her kids might die. She'd take that over what she's got now, which I thought was really powerful.
Yeah, and I thought when they unveiled the statue, my take on it was like, it wasn't like a really happy statue. It was definitely, it was the mother with the baby getting taken, and it was quite harrowing, really, because if you look at the expression on the baby, it's quite a blank expression, and that really kind of juxtaposed, against the clear blue sky, and there's quite upbeat American music, I think, quite happy music from memory in the background, and it was that they're trying to pass it off as like not a thing to celebrate, but almost, I guess, like celebrating their life, and it's like, well, actually, it was like,
well, that's absolutely what they're trying to do.
Yeah, there was nothing good to come of it,
And people aren't going along with it at all. Like I say, people are not impressed, and then they're even less impressed when the good riddance calls, when the guilty remnant when they turn up, and they all hold up a sign that spells out "Stop wasting your time."
I mean, what was
Stop wasting your breath, wasn't it?
Don't waste your breath.
Oh, stop wasting your breath. Sorry.
I mean, what was the mayor thinking? Because the policeman was obviously like, they're going to be there. You see what they're like, and then she didn't plan adequately or not. Maybe that's probably going a bit far, but maybe like her mind's all over the place as well.
Well, look, I think she's probably underestimating the guilty remnant, and obviously we don't know what's going on kind of behind the scenes. But she's, it's clearly just an event just to try and lift spirits in Mapleton, and I think it was just quite poorly thought through, because I think the main point is, like I said, that she just underestimated that the guilty remnant would actually turn up to this.
Yeah.
I don't think she underestimated that they'd turn up. I think because Kevin provided quite ample examples of when they've turned up, like at a football game. I think they talk about. So I think she kind of possibly knew that they would turn up, but I'm not quite sure why it broke down into other than touching on what Ant said, kind of everyone on the edge. There was no real reason for it to trigger that kind of, I'm gonna say riot, but that brawl, like that, I don't really understand why that brawl kicked off, other than to show that people were on edge and were almost looking for a fight.
Because they're all there to grieve, and they're saying. By the way, I agree with your point, Phil. But they were saying don't waste your breath, and they're seen as a nuisance in the community, and they wanted someone to take it out on, and a scapegoat of sorts. And just regarding the punch up itself, I mean, the GR didn't fight back from memory. Maybe they're defending themselves, but they certainly didn't strike back. And it was interesting to see the chaos, because the police were very underprepared. There was no like police tactics to separate the two factions or anything. So it just adds to the chaos, which is again kind of contrasts with the unveiling of the statue.
No, great point, by the way, that about the guilty remnant not fighting back, and it's because, like Kevin said earlier in the episode, they are trying to provoke people. They're trying to get that, and we see it throughout the episode. They're trying to provoke Meg when they're just stalking her all throughout the night, and clearly they've been doing it a lot. They're trying to get these reactions out of people, and maybe towards the episode we'll have a little discussion as to why that is. And then we see news reports that violence is erupting all over the place. I presume all over the country, maybe even all over the world, because it is 3 years since the departure, and like I've said, loads of people just cannot cope with it. Then we cut to a bar, and we get the reveal that the Pope was one of the people that departed, along with Shaquille O'Neal and Jennifer Lopez and Gary Busey, and all these little funny details. And then we get a woman in a bar talking to Kevin. And did you guys pick up on who that was?
It was the woman from the start.
Yeah, exactly. She asked Kevin where he was during the night of the well, not the night, during the
Yeah.
day of the departure, the moments of the departure, and we get a nice little cut of Kevin railroading someone. It looks like, to be fair. And then
Sorry, just to cut in there. When you see him, absolutely, using his enormous, his big dick energy on her.
mhm.
Well, that woman, it's not Laurie, is it? 'Cause now this is kind of me almost
I didn't
thinking a
think
bit
it
too
was.
much about things. But is that woman that you see in railroading? Is that supposed to be who's the lady? The one who gives the speech about her children disappearing. Was that her?
Nora. No, no,
Nora.
it's not Nora,
Right. Okay.
but dot dot dot.
It's the hockey coach.
It's not the hockey coach.
Is it Meg?
uh, it's not Meg.
Because
We're
Yeah,
just going to guess through
yeah.
everyone.
yeah, that's the next hour of this. No, but
I have to go back and freeze frame it.
no, but interesting, Phil. Interesting that you're thinking along those lines. Maybe that will come up again. Maybe it won't. Who knows?
I thought I'd explain
Um,
why the kids were so angry at him after the later
mm,
on reveal.
maybe. Um, and then he asks where she was, and then obviously we get the reveal that yep, she's in fact the lady from the intro. And then we see the guy who shot the dog walk out the bar, and Kevin goes after to confront him. Um, and then the guy drives away, and then we see that the guilty remnant are actually now stalking Kevin like they were Meg. And given what we were saying earlier about how the guilty remnant maybe, seem to target people who have got, as Meg's fiance said, stuff going on in their lives. Wonder what this kind of says about Kevin, that they're now looking at him.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to make of that because earlier when you see him shoot the dog and it kind of comes out of the blue and he disappears, and then again he's in the bar, disappears, not really says why he disappears, he just kind of does, and he goes after him because he recognises him. But yeah, there's probably not too much to say because you're not given a lot to work with. I did quite kind of like how the woman from the laundromat at the beginning, she's kind of flirting with Kevin and he's just not interested basically.
Yeah, he's not
From
picking up what
memory.
he's putting down, is he?
Yeah. So then, Kevin goes to the guilty remnant house and he's looking for Laurie, and he just beats up a guy, and he can get away with it because he's a policeman. I wonder if they were trying to obviously make a little point there, maybe.
Well, you
So
see him
then Laurie.
knock the stuffing out of, during the brawl.
Mhm.
Like, you see he is way over the line at multiple points when he uses his truncheon on people. Like, you see him, like, hit people already down multiple times. Like, he's
Yeah.
clearly over the line.
No, that is true. That is true. And again, he's a policeman. So,
Yeah,
apparently he can do whatever he wants or in his own mind. Maybe that's what he thinks. So then Laurie comes out of the house, and Kevin is told to, well, not told, gestured to leave by Patty, who is the seeming leader of the guilty remnant, or at least in this town. Kevin just wants to go for a walk and just to speak to Laurie, but Patty won't let her go. And this is when we get the reveal that Laurie is in fact Kevin's wife.
yeah.
And he begs her to come home, but then the guilty remnant guy just jumps back up, starts beating him up. And it's quite interesting because Laurie's upset, and so she clearly isn't, completely emotionally switched off from things, which you may be forgiven for thinking that is the case. But still, she chooses to stay. She doesn't go with Kevin, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah, that was the point where I kind of thought back on the sex scene. I was like, oh, actually, was that her, or is she angry at him for something he's done? Hence why
Mm-hmm.
she's now in the. I didn't know who the other woman was, and that's why I was checking if it was Laurie or not.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, my thought on the bit with Laurie when she's clearly disturbed and, distressed and emotionally invested in Kevin returning, I didn't really see that coming because, I thought she'd just be cold and distant. So it's interesting to see that there's still clearly something there and some, I don't know if it's remorse, I don't know if it's regret, but there's something there, isn't there?
There's something there, but like I say, it's not strong enough, or it's not as strong as her feelings as to maybe why she joined the good riddance cult. In the first place. So then we get a taxi turn up, and it's Meg. And so clearly the tactics of trying to push vulnerable people to breaking points is working, because now she's here to join them. And just a quick one as well. Patty speaks.
Yeah, I know.
Even
I
though
made a note. Why does she talk?
even though it is just quickly to explain things to Meg, and she says, "You and I won't speak again," but she does do it. She does break the rule.
Unless when people get inducted, you get a few sentences, and then it's like, right, be quiet forever.
Yeah, here's your health and safety induction, and then that's it. Be careful picking up heavy loads.
Here's your welcome pack.
Yeah, all accidents must be reported in the register. Yeah.
So then we get a few quick cuts of the two Garvey children. We see Tom swimming through the swimming pool, and we don't quite see his penis, I don't think.
I think
when
you
he's
catch a
swimming
glimpse,
through.
but yeah.
Yeah, maybe if you watch it in slow.
Honestly, never saw that.
If you pause it, if you're really dedicated to pausing and slowing down.
Yeah, I never saw that. But...
They make you work for it anyway.
But then we see that he's got quite a few scars on his back, which is something to note. And then we see Jill, who sees the picture that's been smashed right on Laurie's face, and she's clearly been very affected by the whole thing. I mean, as you would be by a parent joining the guilty remnant. Just imagine that your parent just leaves the house, breaks off all contact, goes to a cult where they won't speak and everything. Even just something like that is just going to be so difficult to deal with.
I thought that's why when you think back on, when they do the prayer back in the classroom much earlier on, and she kind of almost makes a joke of it, because she had, from appearances, she's not actually lost anyone. Like, her mum's technically still there, but she can't see her. If that makes sense, which must be quite frustrating.
What's worse, losing someone who is the person you always knew, or watching them turn into something different?
Yeah, exactly. No longer being able to communicate with them, but not because they've vanished, but because they've joined a cult.
And also, yeah, I mean, like you said, what is worse out of that? So you know exactly what has happened to someone, and so whether how good or bad you might find that, or just the complete mystery of not knowing what's happened to someone. What is the worst out of them two? Because you could imagine that they've gone to a better place, or you could imagine that they've gone to a much worse place or something, So, yeah, it's really quite interesting to think about, really. So then the last scene then that we get is, so we've got Kevin driving again and sees a deer in the middle of the road again. Interesting that the deer isn't scared of Kevin. Deers are, obviously known for pelting at the first sight of humans normally. And this is when he asks if the deer was in his house last night. And then this talked about pack of rabid dogs that I think is mentioned when Jill's with the twins earlier. And they mention about a pack of rabid dogs. They turn up and they chase down and they just start ripping this deer to shreds. Did you see this coming at all?
No, I mean, the first time I saw the deer was the first time I saw it, and I was like, okay, there's clearly something going on then. Like, the fact, he runs over the deer in the dream, I thought, okay, it's a bit strange, but, you got the disappearing deer in the background early when he leaves the house, and I thought, okay, well, maybe it's something, I'm not quite sure, but then I was like, okay, there is something going on here. The deer's there again. The fact that dogs come out of nowhere, the fact they run past Kevin as well.
Yeah, I noticed that. I thought that was weird.
I thought surely maybe one of them would go for the man. Why are they so intent on going after the deer? Because, Kevin's closer. Also, I did think, who would actually win in a race? A load of dogs or one deer? Because I always thought they were pretty rapid, but obviously the dogs won on this occasion.
I think the dogs were already running, weren't they? And the deer, tried to turn and then...
Caught flat-footed.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Literally like a deer in the headlights.
Literally. So then the guy who shot the dog at the start and was in the bar turns up and he starts shooting the dogs again. And after Kevin, who said in the earlier scene that you can't just shoot our dogs, and he says to Kevin, they aren't our dogs anymore. And then Kevin takes out his pistol and he starts joining in the shooting as well.
I thought that
What?
I thought the guy with it was a sniper rifle, wasn't it? It
Yeah,
was certainly
hunting
both.
rifle. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's probably not the best. If his job is literally hunting dogs, he probably wants to think a bit more with a faster rate of fire. So it seemed like he had the wrong gun. But
Is
that's such a minor point.
yeah. I'd wondered if he was a projection, like he's not actually real. Because
The
clearly
guy.
yeah, the whole almost the whole situation really. Because I know the initial dog that's dead is real, but I think they're clearly using that to show his decline or his change in personality from, oh, we shouldn't kill dogs, to fire, just keep firing at them.
Mhm.
And
And
also, I'm kind of wondering if as you said, like the dogs ignore Kevin, as you said, Ant, and I'd wondered if he's actually just starting to see things. I'm not sure if I'm
Yeah,
coming a bit reading too much
yeah.
into nothing.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw it, I initially thought it's either a dream or it's
Yeah,
some sort of symbolism,
because the
or
car doesn't have plates, does
I
it?
thought, is this going to be like a show that links in heavily with like mythology, maybe? And I thought, I can't,
Mm.
pack of dogs and a deer doesn't immediately spring to mind, but yeah, it's very clear that there's some very strange things going on.
well, on your point as well, Phil, here's something that maybe you didn't quite pick up on, or maybe it's nothing to pick up on. But obviously, being the chief of police, as Kevin is a job where you will get to know people. But there's no
Yeah,
suggestion that he knows this guy prior, but the guy calls him chief.
yeah. That's so. I did pick up on that's one of the things that I thought was so strange, that it's an unrecognized car. He's firing publicly at night and no one seems to care or do anything about it.
Mhm.
And no one else reacts to the guy in the car or anything else. So no one else from the bar seems to notice the man in the car, if that made
That's
sense.
interesting. Yeah,
That's what triggered me, was, oh, that's weird. No one else has seen this.
but he doesn't do anything wrong, does he? In the bar, he just kind of walks through the bar and gets in the car. He doesn't do anything, does he?
Yeah, he doesn't do anything that draws attention to himself. But it only seems to so he only sees that person after like quite an emotional event, I think. Kind of, oh, he sees a nice lovely dog that might possibly remind him of his old life. Then something tragic happens. Um, he only then sees the deer potentially after you see with all the sleeping pills, and then he only sees the man again after he's had quite an emotional conversation with his wife, or after he's just spoken to a lady who reminded him about what happened, cleaning out the gutters where he was at the time. So I thought it was strange that that man is always linked to quite a big emotional change in the character, or something quite a big emotionally triggering thing happening, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Mhm.
I
And
mean,
that's why I thought that's a bit weird.
thinking about why a deer would be used, if it is symbolism, if it is a dream sequence of sorts. Just thinking about, I mean, we can speculate, Phil, on what the deer would symbolise. A deer is typically something that gets hunted. It's
Mm.
and a pack of rabid dogs. Yeah, I haven't got too many thoughts right now. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. It
I
could
tried.
it could be one of those things that just turns out to be nothing and it's never mentioned again.
Yeah,
Mhm.
potentially. I was thinking more like wolves and sheep's kind of thing, but yeah, I didn't quite make the link to any kind of biblical.
Yeah,
Um, and I suppose that's quite large what I was looking for as well. A lot of the time was biblical relations,
sure.
kind of,
Yeah,
symbolism from this or that.
yeah.
Well, I guess that's something that we'll all just have to keep an eye on as we go for the next episode. So, so then we roll credits, and that is the pilot episode of The Leftovers. Let's just get some quick closing thoughts from you guys before we sign off. And what did you think of the episode overall after going through it?
I'd give it a strong 8.5 to 9 out of 10. I know numerical rankings are often a bit vapid, but I thought that the way that they portrayed the events and not really focusing on the why or how, and they focus on the characters, I thought was really good. I could perhaps see why some people would think it's boring, but it's probably the people who aren't really paying attention. Half one eye on the show, one eye on Instagram or something. I think you definitely need to pay attention for the little details. Things like the deer in the background, etc., and the little flashbacks and things that are said it's definitely not an in-your-face kind of show for those details, so you do need to pay attention. But no, I really enjoyed it, and like I said, I had to kind of restrain myself from watching the second one, which is a bit cliche, but I'm looking forward to doing the next episode, yeah. Phil?
Yeah, exactly the same. I'm really looking forward to the next episode. I've almost got. It's gonna sound strange. I'm almost nervous because I really like the premise, and I think it's been a really strong opening episode. And in my mind, I'm almost comparing it to Lost. You know, where they had this really interesting idea, no one really knew what had happened, and then several seasons in, turns out even the writers didn't know what had happened. And that's my only concern is that I'm almost worried to get emotionally involved in case they can't pan out this really good premise.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking forward to seeing the next episode.
Sure.
Okay, we'll find out what you guys think about the next episode next week. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed our little, well, probably not so little, well over an hour at this point, recap and breakdown of the pilot episode. Thanks again for joining in, everyone, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
See you later.